If you're a member of an online community like Facebook, you probably know that you don't have much privacy. You don't own your data, Facebook does. But what if I told you that Web3 communities are trying to solve this problem and thinking so much more creatively about better ways for people to interact online with each other? But what exactly is a Web3 community? And besides giving you more privacy, what else about them has caused such a buzz that there are over 40 million search results for them in Google? And if you look at the past 5 years, that search has exploded. So in order for me to explain Web3, I want to start by looking at Web2. Web2 communities are started by either a person or a company. Typically, the product or service has already been created, and then communities are created afterwards. Communities are typically built for reasons such as providing tech support, to educate, if they have more products or services coming out in the future. There's quite a few other reasons why communities could be built for Web2 companies, but those are the most popular ones. Now in Web3, we're looking at a completely different concept. There's this concept called decentralization, where no single person or company controls the network. They're relying on a shared consensus of a group of people in the community. With Web3, what you'll find is that the community is built first and then the products or services. In fact, the products or services are actually built with the community. This can happen in Web2 communities, but in Web3, the concept is that community truly comes first. Community can control the data, the creation of new products or services, and money. Web3 opens doors for whole new ways for people to be empowered and earn money or other perks in different ways. For example, let's look at the life of a digital artist in Web2 world and in Web3 world. In Web2 world, the artist would upload their work onto the internet, and when they sell that artwork, they would receive a cut. And that would be the end of it. But in Web3, that digital artist could upload their work onto the blockchain, and when they sell that piece of work, they would get a cut. But the advantage of it being on the blockchain is that there's always going to be a record when that original art piece has been sold on. So if buyer 1 decides to sell it to buyer 2, well, in the Web3 world, typically we have royalties that are assigned back to the artist for every single sale that takes place in the future. So artists would be getting royalties not just on the primary sale, but in the secondary as well. That's an incredible additional secondary income for these artists and creators. And to be honest, this is just one example. The sky's the limit. In terms of community, well, the artists can have records of everybody that's purchased their art. They can set up a community where for those people that have purchased their art can get access to exclusive perks. The best thing about it being uploaded onto the blockchain is that you can't fake an art piece, for instance. You can't right-click save that image and then expect to receive the same perks as somebody that's purchased the original art, because the blockchain never lies. Now, in terms of the main types of Web3 communities out there, I've seen 4 main types. You have NFT communities, which are non-fungible tokens. To simplify it, just look up CryptoPunks, Bored Apes. You've probably seen this in the news because some of these have sold for outrageous prices, but it doesn't necessarily have to be art. Just think of it as unique contracts that are uploaded onto the blockchain and that can be used for anything, whether it's access to the artwork, whether it's access to an exclusive community, whether it's access to an in real life event like purchasing a ticket. The best thing is you can actually create these perks at any point in time. It doesn't have to be just when you purchase that NFT. Next, you have DAOs, which are decentralized autonomous organizations. If you're not sure what a DAO is, I have created a video and I'll leave a link to that in the description where I deep dive into DAOs. Then you have cryptocurrency communities and DeFi, which is decentralized finance. The most popular platforms where you'll find these Web3 communities are Discord, Telegram, Twitter Spaces, and Reddit. Now, there are other platforms, and to be honest, there are new platforms that are popping up all the time, especially ones that are more Web3 friendly. Discord was actually created for gaming communities originally, And the Web3 communities have been able to use Discord and sort of hack things together to make it work. But there are newer platforms that are coming out that are a lot more sophisticated and will be able to better meet the needs of the Web3 communities in future. But I would say that the ones that I've mentioned are definitely the most popular, where most people are hanging out still. Now, you do have the metaverse as well, which I like to think of it as a fun place to virtually hang out, but it's very experimental. And there's definitely Web3 communities that are trying out new things in the metaverse. So if you're interested in checking out those platforms, you can check out Decentraland or the Sandbox. They're two of the popular ones. Now, in terms of tools that are used in the Web3 community, well, like I said, Web3 is community-led. Now, what does that actually mean? It means that major decisions around the future of a product or service being created or anything related to the community is actually made by the community. So with that in mind, community voting is an incredibly important aspect of Web3 communities. You need to ensure that the voice of the community members is being heard. And there's some incredibly sophisticated tools in Web3 to ensure that that happens. And you can set the parameters in this voting system. So we have this concept called reputation-based voting, where perhaps people that are contributing more to the community, people that are more educated about a specific topic, you can actually weight their vote to be higher depending on factors that you deem to be important. This is very different to the Web 2 traditional ways of looking at community, where typically you may have polls, but you had no way of knowing whether people that have been most active were really creating more bias in the community. In Web 3, you actually have ways to ensure that there's reduced bias, and you really want to make sure that the right decisions are being made in the best interests of everyone in the community. For those interested in checking out that voting tool in more detail, I've created a video in the past. The tool is called Snapshot. You can feel free to check that video out. And to be honest, a lot of times in the Web 2 community world, you would actually have more of the centralized body, whether it was a company, whether it was higher management, or whether it was the creator or whoever owned the community. They would typically make the majority of the decisions. So it's really great in Web3 world that we're seeing more of the community being empowered. Incentivizing community members in the Web3 world is also different. In the Web2 world, you have a variety of ways to incentivize your members. Typically, you'd see a lot of swag, digital badges, private events, and other perks, and some intrinsic rewards as well, such as recognition, helping members with their own goals, career prospects, etc. Now, in the Web3 world, you also have a mix of extrinsic and intrinsic. And when I refer to extrinsic rewards, what I'm really referring to is tangible benefits. These are things that you can see. So it's things like money, physical products, etc. So in Web3, you may have heard of this concept called airdrops or tokens. This is just one of the extrinsic benefits that members can receive for contributing to the community or performing a specific activity. Most of the times, these are financially related. So the token or the airdrop would have some sort of value, but that's not necessarily the case. You could definitely have tokens or airdrops that are intrinsic. For example, a status play. You also have POAPs, and these are like proof of attendance tickets that you can send to community members on the blockchain. Typically for attending an event, you could have it in real life or virtually. Web3 also gives out swag, but the cool part about Web3 is that that swag doesn't have to be physical. I've seen swag being allocated in the virtual world, whether that's digital fashion that can be worn in the metaverse and other objects related to virtual world. Intrinsically, you can assign greater voting power to your community members so they feel like they have more of a voice and have more of a say in the future of the project or the Web3 company that they're a part of. Web3 community members typically are offered greater chances at contributing as well, which can be very fulfilling, let alone could also help with their career prospects. And in the Web3 space, you'll see way more empowerment given to the members of the community because the concept is community-led. An example of this is the Nouns project. This is a Web3 project where they open sourced their work and they encouraged members of their community to build on their work. Not only that, but they gave them the resources that were needed to ensure that the members' projects were also successful. They actively encourage it. They want more community involvement. They want to see their community use their work and build upon it because to them, they see it as brand building and it actually helps everybody become more successful. Now, in terms of the challenges that Web3 communities are facing, well, we're really at the frontier here, and it's common to say in the Web3 space that we're still early. So I think the concepts of decentralization are great, but in terms of execution, this is really, really tough. And there still needs to be a lot of work done to build all these tools and platforms to encourage decentralization, to encourage contributions from the right people in the community, to ensure that the power is actively distributed, to ensure that we don't see centralized bodies popping up. It's really tough because, to be honest, human behavior, generally you'll find that the majority of a group of people don't actually want to do anything. They're considered lurkers. They may have their own reasons for being a part of the community, but they don't want to actively contribute. And if the model is that you're requiring more people to contribute to ensure the success of the community, then you're going to fall into some challenges there. Also, coordinating groups of people to work together is tough. We know that during COVID, there are a lot of people that don't like working remotely, that they struggle with it. And we're talking about Web3 projects that are really pushing the boundaries as well. So a lot of the times you'll find that even just coordinating this, it's a huge effort and it can be a huge challenge. So we're definitely seeing some forms of centralization that are still happening. There's definitely DAOs that have not succeeded because they have struggled with this. I would say that we're very much still work in progress in the Web3 space. Now, if you'd like to check out a Web3 community yourself to see what it's like, the good news is it's actually really easy. I'll include some of my recommendations below in the description. I would recommend that you educate yourself as much as possible before you go down the route of purchasing something. But in terms of just being curious and taking a look at what these Web3 communities look like, there's definitely ones that are available to anybody in the Web2 space to take a look around, see what's going on. You can learn so much by joining some of these Web3 communities. And as an experienced community builder myself, I must admit I find it very inspiring to see people really pushing for the new state of community, the new state of the internet. If you're keen to understand a bit more about how you can go from Web 2 to Web 3, then you should definitely check out my video that I made about Reddit. Reddit managed to onboard over 3 million people from Web 2 into Web 3. It's been a massive success for them, and there's plenty of players in this space that did not manage to have the same success that Reddit has. So you'll definitely want to check out that video because I go through how they did it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.